The Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. In the years between June 1984 and August 1985, Richard Ramirez, an American sex offender and serial murderer, committed a series of murders and sexual assaults in the state of California. Stay tuned to this video to uncover the chilling story of the Night Stalker. Ramirez started developing gruesome and macabre interests in his early and mid-teens from his older cousin Miguel Ramirez, who also taught him some of the military skills that he would go on to use during his year-long killing spree. Also, Ramirez's father would frequently abuse him, and his cousin Miguel Ramirez helped him develop these interests. In addition to this, Ramirez developed a deep fascination with Satanism and the occult. When he came to California at the age of 22, he had already developed a habit of consuming cocaine regularly by the time he left his home in Texas. To feed his drug habit, Ramirez committed several burglaries, many of which were subsequently commonly followed by homicides, attempted homicides, rapes, attempted rapes, and assaults. Ramirez was eventually arrested for all of these crimes. During 14 months, Ramirez's house invasions and killing sprees, which received widespread media coverage, put inhabitants of the greater Los Angeles region and eventually the San Francisco Bay Area in a state of constant fear. His first known murder occurred in April 1984. It was not until 2009 when genetic evidence linked him to one of his previously unattributed crimes. In addition, handguns, several kinds of knives, a machete, a tire iron, and a claw hammer were among the weapons and means of execution that Ramirez used throughout the crime spree. And at least one of his victims was stomped to death while she was sleeping, and he tortured another victim by shocking her with a live electrical cord. He beat, pistol whipped, and strangled many of his victims, both with his hands and, in one instance, with a ligature. Ramirez also frequently enjoyed degrading and humiliating his victims, particularly those who survived his attacks or whom he explicitly decided not to kill, by forcing them to confess that they loved Satan, or by telling them to swear on Satan that there were no more valuables left in their homes that he had broken into and burglarized. In addition, Ramirez was found guilty of 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, 11 sexual assaults, 14 burglaries, and other charges. The judge, who affirmed Ramirez's 19 death sentences, said that his actions displayed cruelty, callousness, and viciousness beyond any human comprehension. However, Ramirez never once showed any sign of regret for his wrongdoings, and on June 7, 2013, he passed away due to complications from B-cell lymphoma while he was on death row in the state of California, awaiting his execution. Ramirez did not realize that he had become the primary focus of practically every major newspaper and television news program in the state of California when, on August 30, 1985, he boarded a bus to go to Tucson, Arizona to spend time with his brother. But early on the morning of August 31st, Ramirez made his way back to Los Angeles, disappointed that he had been unable to see his brother since he was not at home. However, early on the morning of August 31, Ramirez returned to Los Angeles, disappointed that he had been unable to see his brother since he was not at home. But after seeing a group of elderly Hispanic ladies pointing their fingers at him in horror and recognizing him as El Matador, Ramirez saw his face on the front page of the newspaper La Opinion with a headline naming him Invasor Nocturno, Night Invader, and he ran out of the shop in a panic. After sprinting over the Santa Ana Freeway, I-5, he tried to carjack an unlocked Ford Mustang, but was stopped by an irate local homeowner named Faustino Pinon. Following that, he ran across the Santa Ana Freeway again. Ramirez made a break for it along the other side of the street and tried to steal Angelina de la Torre's vehicle keys. However, Ramirez was chased by the woman's husband, Manuel de la Torre, who saw the attempted robbery and hit Ramirez in the head with a fence post as he was pursuing Ramirez. After forming a gang of more than 10 locals gave pursuit Ramirez as he was walking along Hubbard Street in Boyle Heights. Ramirez was ultimately pinned down by the group of residents who subdued him until the police arrived. Also, a disturbance was reported in the vicinity at around 8 in the morning, but very little information was provided other than the fact that it seemed to include a fight. Thereby, Ramirez was taken into custody shortly after the police arrived at the scene in the 3700 block of Hubbard, where they discovered Ramirez to be badly battered and defenseless. When the gathering expanded to several hundred individuals and became more disorderly towards Ramirez, the responding cop, Andy Ramirez, no relation, waited behind as another officer, Jim Kaiser, drove him to the Hollenbeck police station. On July 22, 1988, the process of selecting a jury for the trial got underway. In addition, Ramirez stood before the judge for the first time and exclaimed, "Hail Satan," while raising a hand that had a pentagram written on it. The Los Angeles Times reported on August 3, 1988, that staff of the prison overheard Ramirez preparing to kill the prosecutor with a pistol, which Ramirez wanted to sneak into the courtroom. As a direct result of this, a metal detector was placed in the lobby, and thorough screenings were done on anybody entering the building. However, the trial had to be halted on August 14th due to the absence of Phyllis Singletary, who was serving as a juror but was not present in the courtroom. Later on that day, her body was discovered dead in her apartment after having been shot. The jury was frightened, and they were questioning whether or if Ramirez could communicate with the other jurors, as well as whether or not he had somehow guided this incident from within his cell. Nevertheless, in the end, it was established that Ramirez was not guilty of the murder of Singletary, and it was discovered that her boyfriend was the one who shot and killed her, and that he subsequently committed suicide by shooting himself in a hotel room using the same pistol. Ramirez was found guilty of all 43 accusations on September 20, 1989. They included 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. And on November 7, 1989, during the portion of the trial devoted to determining the appropriate punishment, he was found guilty and condemned to death by lethal injection in California's gas chamber. Once the sentences were handed down, he addressed the media and said the famous words, "Big deal. Death was something that came with the territory at all times. See you at Disneyland." Even during his trial, Ramirez had a devoted following, receiving letters and visits from people who were fascinated by him. Among them was Doreen Leoy, a freelance magazine editor who first became aware of Richard Ramirez through news coverage of his crimes and trial. Intrigued by him, Leoy began writing him letters in 1985, believing in his innocence despite his conviction. Over the years, her devotion to Ramirez grew stronger, and she was a regular visitor to San Quentin State Prison. Leoy's unwavering support for Ramirez has been a subject of fascination, as it is challenging to understand why someone would choose to marry a convicted serial killer. Her relationship with Ramirez is an example of a phenomenon known as hybristophilia, in which individuals are attracted to those who have committed violent crimes. Ramirez proposed to Leoy in 1988, and on October 3, 1996, they were married inside San Quentin State Prison. Leoy had previously stated that she would take her own life if Ramirez were executed. However, she ultimately severed her relationship with Ramirez in 2009 when new DNA evidence confirmed his involvement in the rape and murder of 9-year-old Mei Luang. A made psychopath, as opposed to a born psychopath, is how Ramirez was referred to by his treating psychiatrist, Michael H. Stone. According to him, Ramirez's schizoid personality disorder was a contributing factor in his indifference to the pain of his victims and in his inability to be treated. Stone further claimed that before Ramirez was 6 years old, he was knocked unconscious many times and came dangerously close to passing away. As a consequence, Ramirez eventually acquired temporal lobe epilepsy, aggressivity, and hypersexuality, according to Stone. And it is most likely the reason why he went on to become the most notorious serial murderer of the century, as well as the reason why he had such a strong attachment to Satan and violent behavior in general. And that's it. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on the Night Stalker and if you think the sentence he received was justified. Thanks for watching this video. click the subscribe button, and see you in the following video.